Well, hello everybody. My name is Liz Thompson. It is not quite 3 p.m. Eastern yet, but I have started the live video just a couple of minutes early so that people can get connected and get situated and ready to start on time. So we will do the proper introductions and everything at 3 p.m. Eastern. But in the meanwhile, you can look at my pretty Janome 15,000. Obviously, because we haven't started yet, I'm not going to actually do any presentation of material yet, but just to let you know that you are more than welcome to ask questions throughout the whole live. And if I'm not able to answer them, then one of the Janome admin people will certainly answer you as well. So before we get started, just wanted to ask you what the weather's like where you are. And I know I'm going to kind of rub it in a little. We switched our central heating off. I'm situated in Vancouver in British Columbia, Canada, and our cherry blossom is in fact a thing of the past. It's come and it's gone. It is really quite warm here. I have not worn a sweater or a coat for a while. So the only reason I kind of rub that in a little is because so many people say, oh, they just do not know how I can possibly live in Vancouver because all it ever does is rain there. And it's grey all the time. Yep, it does rain a lot. And yes, it is grey. But my goodness, we get spring early. Okay, we are now 3 p.m. Eastern, so I would like to get started. And I am sorry, I do apologize for all of those of you that do have stormy weather or snow. I know Ontario got snow last week and they were none too happy about that. 81 degrees Burlington, Kansas. Thank you, Becky, for that. Unfortunately, I don't know what 81 degrees is because I think in centigrade. For me, anything over, let's say, 15 to 20 degrees is warm. And I do come from Africa. I was born in South Africa and came to Canada many, many years ago. And in Africa, we had really high temperatures. So I actually much prefer the temperatures in Canada. Anyway, enough of that. What I would like to do is just briefly introduce myself. My name is Liz Thompson, and I am the National Education Manager for Janome Canada. I have a team of educators and artisans. I think in America you call them makers. But I have a team of people that work with me, and we do have an awful lot of creative fun. As I said, I am based in Vancouver, British Columbia, although, of course, I do travel quite a lot. Not at the moment, of course, but will be traveling again once life returns to our new normal. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be sewing on the Janome 15,000. I'm going to be using that machine. Of course, most of us are based at home at the moment, so I don't have a vast number of machines with me at home, but that is the embroidery machine I have. I happen to love it with a great passion, but I do want you to rest assured that the project that I'm going to show you today can be done on any of our Janome embroidery machines. And I'm actually just wondering if I can turn this camera around. I don't see the icon on the screen for that. I always seem to, oh, I found it. Okay, so let me just say hi. You didn't see my face at the beginning. You really don't need to see my face very much during the presentation, but I just thought it was maybe rude not to show my face so that you know at least who's talking. All right, anyway, without further ado, let me just flip you back to the machine because that's the star of the show today. As I said, I'm going to be using, you'll see it on the machine right now. Well, it's not attached to the machine, but I've got it laying there, is the SQ23 hoop, which is our 9-inch square hoop with this machine. You could also just as easily used the SQ14 hoop because the size of the design, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, the size of the design that you choose is going to determine what would be the better size hoop. So if you don't have a Janome 15,000, that doesn't matter, because the SQ14 hoop that I just held up a moment ago is a sort of approximately 4 to 5 inch square hoop, and your machine 10-to-1 has a hoop that size. I know the 500E does, the 550E does, the 9900, the 9850, the S9, they all have hoops that will work for this project. So let's talk about the design that we're going to use. Now, obviously, the project we're doing is I think it's quite a neat project. It's quite clever. It wasn't my idea, but I discovered it many, many years ago, and I've used it quite often, is to stitch or embroider 4 table napkins in one hooping. So it really is quite clever. And the design you're going to choose, because you're making a table napkin, you're not making a 10-inch quilt block. Your table napkin is just going to have a small little embroidery in one of the corners of the napkin. So the design that I have chosen is this little redwork flower pot. And that design happens to be one of the built-in redwork designs on the Janome 15,000. If you don't have that design on your machine, I'm quite sure that you've got any number of other designs on your machine, or maybe you've got them that you can bring into the machine in whichever method you use, be that Wi-Fi or your USB stick or your cable. Here is another design that is also built into the free arm hoop section of the 15,000, and it is one of the cross-stitch monograms. So I did it in silver metallic thread, a T for Thompson, obviously that being my name. And so you can see that the designs that I'm using, and here is another one. This one is a little flower that is also built into the free arm section of the 15,000. And as I say, you could choose any design that suits you. You could even digitize your own. Many of you will know and hopefully have already taken advantage of the free trial offer for our artistic digitizer software. We've been promoting that for several weeks now. Just so that you know, tomorrow, Friday the 15th of May, is the very last day that you can apply for a code to use that software and give it a try for free. So if you haven't already applied for that free code, I would recommend you get your skates on and get that application in pronto. You do still have access to that software until the end of May, until the 31st of May. And Anne Hine, who's the software specialist educator at Janome America, she has been doing loads of videos and support and exercises. We've been doing the same on Janome Life blog in Canada. So if you want to digitize your own design for your napkin, go right ahead. Okay. So that was about the size of the design. Thread choice. Now, if we think in terms of a table napkin, somebody is going to wipe their sticky fingers on your napkin. So your napkin is definitely going to have to be laundered. And if they wiped curry fingers or tomato sauce fingers on your napkin, you may have to bleach your napkin. So my strong recommendation would be that you use a polyester embroidery thread for the embroidery on your napkin. And I have used, I'll go over to the machine here and show you, I have used, I hope you can see it from there, a Madeira poly neon thread. I happen to like polyester thread, and that is one of the brands that we promote in Canada is Madeira thread. Doesn't obviously have to be that brand, it can be your favorite brand. But I would recommend polyester because if you use a rayon and then you go and bleach that napkin to get the stain from somebody's dirty fingers out of your napkin, you may find that your embroidery loses its color because rayon is not color fast, whereas polyester is color fast. I also find that polyester is quite strong, so I get less thread breakage, which is always a welcome thing. The other thing I wanted to mention about the embroidery thread is you won't be able to see it right now because I have the hoop over the machine, but if I move it, don't know if you can see it, possibly you can see over there that I have a red bobbin in the machine. I have wound a bobbin with exactly the same red polyester thread. Seeing as we're doing a red work flower pot, I figured that I would use the same thread. So that is the advantage of that. And think about it for a moment. If you've got a table napkin, somebody sitting at your dinner table, once this pandemic is over and we can entertain again, they may turn your napkin over and see the back if you haven't done a double layered napkin. So you do want the back of your embroidery to be neat and tidy as well. And so if you put exactly the same thread in your bobbin, you're going to get reversible embroidery. It may be the mirror image of your design, but it will look almost as good on the back as it does on the front. Now we're doing today a design that is just one color, as I showed you a moment ago. It's just one color. But if you're doing a design that's got more than one color, you're going to wind a bobbin with the same color for each color change. That is what the back of my embroidery looks like. Do you see? It's almost as good as the front. And that's what I call reversible embroidery. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is the needle to use. Now, we have needles at Janome, and while we don't insist that you use our Janome needles, we do recommend that you do, because our needles are calibrated or made specifically for our machines, and you will find that you're going to get much more successful use of the built-in needle threaders if you use our machines. This particular needle is the Janome red tip needle. It is essentially a universal needle. It has a larger eye, and I really do like that. It's a size 14. I like that because when I'm doing embroidery, I find I get much less thread breakage, and that slightly larger needle does a really good job of embroidery in the hoop. So that is my preferred needle, but you can use other needles. Now, as regards the stabilizer, again, if you think about it, this is a table napkin, so we're going to see the back of the table napkin. And so I had to ask myself, do I want to be picking all those little tiny bits of stabilizer out of the back of my embroidery? And the answer was a resounding absolutely not, because there's a lot of little spots and spaces between the redwork stitching there. So my recommendation for a design like the one we're using today is to use a water-soluble stabilizer, and that's what I currently have hooped up, so that after you have finished your napkins, all you need to do is spritz it and rinse it, and your stabilizer is gone and you have no more further problems. Bobbin cases. I wanted to talk a little bit about bobbin cases. The one that is currently in the machine is our yellow dot bobbin case. That is a bobbin case that comes with our embroidery machines, and you'll see the yellow dot quite clearly there. This has a higher tension than the other bobbin case that comes with your machine, and that is the regular one with a red marking. You can see the little red marking there. And the red bobbin case is for most of your sewing applications on the machine, and when we come to do embroidery, we use the yellow dot bobbin case. As I say, it has a higher tension, and the reason for that is that when you're doing embroidery, you do not want to see your bobbin thread, which might have been a Janome pre-wound white bobbin thread. That might be creeping up to the top, and you'll see it around the edges of your embroidery, and that's really not good. I've said to people that there's really not that many options you have when that happens. You can cry, you can swear, you can scream, or you can throw the embroidery away. Well, Janome thinks of everything, because they give us the yellow dot bobbin case, which pulls the top thread, the needle thread, a little bit more to the back so you don't get that creep of bobbin thread up to the top. So it really is great. Now, there are a couple of times when I don't recommend the yellow dot bobbin case. And that is if you are using Janome pre-wounds, these are wound very tightly. So strictly speaking, you don't, and by the way, we have them in black as well. We pack them in black and white, and you can ask your local Janome dealer. Incidentally, let's give a shout out to the dealers. The dealers have been operating under very difficult conditions for quite a while now, and most of them are still operating behind closed doors. They're answering emails, they're answering phone calls, they're doing curbside pickup, they're shipping things to you when you run out of elastic and thread and needles, and if you're looking for a new machine, they're more than happy to ship to you. So do contact your local Janome dealer. So all of these things that I'm showing you, if you haven't seen them before or you have questions, you're very, very welcome to contact your local Janome dealer. And if you don't have one, go to the dealer locator on janome.com, and they have a comprehensive list of all the dealers across the United States that you can look up, and the contact details are there. So if you are using a pre-wound bobbin which has been wound specifically tight, it might be that that yellow dot bobbin case is not 100% essential. But just in the interests of ease and not having to remember 100 things, I usually use it for virtually all of my embroidery. Now, the time I do not use the yellow dot bobbin case is if I am doing quilting in the hoop, or I'm doing acufill quilting, and then I use the blue dot bobbin case. Can you see my thumb is pointing to the little blue marking? That is not a bobbin case that comes with your machine. That is an optional accessory, and it is the exact opposite of the red dot. It is the lower tension than your regular one with the red marking. So that one doesn't pull the top thread down to the back so much, and that's really good because when you're making a quilt and you're embroidering right through all the layers of your quilt, you don't want the top thread to go down to the back, because the back of your quilt is going to feel a little bit like sandpaper, and that's not such a good idea. Okay. Before I go on to the next section, which is the actual project, I am going to just whip through the comments to see if there are questions. Will this work with an S9? Absolutely. It will work on all of our Janome machines. Wow, somebody's tuned in from the Netherlands. Hi to you. What machine am I using? The Janome 15,000, but it can be done on any of our Janome machines. What else? Have I left anybody off? Is this the M7? No, the M7 is not an embroidery machine. It is a sewing machine. So this is hoop embroidery that we're doing today. So we would not be able to do it on the M7. Although right at my right-hand side of me, where I'm standing right now, is the M7. And I totally love that machine. But I do my embroidery on the 15,000. Yep. 550E, it'll work. There are so many comments. Let me just try and scroll through a little quicker so that we can get on with the actual project. Yep, it'll work on the 12,000 too. 12,000 has the same hoops as the 15,000. Okay, I'll scroll through some more just now, and maybe the admins can catch a few more of the things that I don't catch. So, as I said to you a moment ago that the best choice was a water-soluble stabilizer, you will see that what I have done is I took a erasable or water-soluble fabric marker, and I drew lines on my stabilizer, and I used these little marks on either side. My arms are not quite long enough here. I used these little marks there and there, and on my hoop to line up a ruler and draw those lines, just so that I could know exactly what was the center of my hoop. Now, I'm not going to do it anywhere near the machine because we don't want to do that, but I also like to use the Artistic Tack temporary adhesive. We really like this product. It's also available from your local Janome dealer. It's got what I call the very awful chemicals. the volatile organic compounds. There's less than 30% of them, so you don't have some of the issues with this glue that you have with other glues. And what I'm going to do is, off camera, I'm just going to spray my hoop a little with that. And now I'm going to scoot over here, and I'm going to try as best I can, because I'm tethered to the camera with headphones and so on. But I need, first of all, to have my hoop set up with the lines. I have also, you will notice, I have used the magnets on the hoop. If your hoop has magnets, use them. They're there for a purpose. They stop slippage. And the fabric that I'm using for my napkins, again, because of where we're at and what we're all having to deal with, I just dug into my stash. I'm not 100% sure what this fabric is. It is more than likely a poly blend of some sort, but it had a sort of linen look. So I thought, even though the color is not my favorite color, I thought it was quite a nice one to use. So I have cut my napkins. Now, you can make your napkins pretty much any size, from cocktail napkins to larger ones. For one of my sets of napkins, I cut my fabric square, one big square, 22 inches in size. So the beauty of that was, it was a quilting cotton. I could get 8 napkins across the width of the fabric, because that gave me 2 large squares, so that I ended up with 8 napkins. This particular fabric that I'm showing you here, this tan creamy fabric, I cut that one a little larger, so that I will end up with larger napkins. And this one was cut at 28 or around about 28, 29 inches square. And what you're then going to do is, you're going to fold the fabric over in half, and then in half again. And you are going to take it to the ironing board. I've done this step already for you. And you're going to press it really well, so that you have got vertical and horizontal crease marks on your fabric. And my recommendation is that you press it so that the wrong side of the fabric is facing outwards. And the reason for that will be a little bit clear now, because now I'm coming and bringing the fabric, and I just want to check that you can see on the camera what I'm doing. Let me move it a little bit back, so that I'm kind of half under the machine. You're going to line up the crease marks on your fabric with those lines that you already drew on your stabilizer. So that's 1/2 of my big square. And then I'm going to take the other side and open it out. And remember that I sprayed the glue on the hoop. And so now I am just pressing my fabric onto the glue, and it is going to hold in place. So let me wake up the machine, so we've got a bit of light on the subject here. And I'm going to attach the hoop to the machine. Right. So the next thing we need to do, now that we have got our fabric laid over the hoop, is, obviously, if you've not already done it, the next step would be to attach the P embroidery foot on the machine. To thread up with your embroidery thread, put your bobbin in with the same bobbin thread, put a new red tip needle into the machine, open the embroidery arm, and then go to the edit screen of the machine. So what I'm now going to do is, I'm going to zero in a little bit further. Let's just see how I can do that, so that you can see that screen better. Okay, I think that's better. We'll move back to the hoop when we start embroidering in a moment. But for now, I wanted you to see the screen better. This little icon here, the graph paper, is our edit screen. That, of course, is our icon where we have our built-in designs, and this is for our fonts, built-in fonts. So I'm going to go first of all to the built-in designs, and because we already talked about wanting a smallish design for this project, I'm going to touch the little hoop over here, and we're going to go to the FA10 hoop, which is our free arm hoop. Some other designs in the SQ14 section might work as well. You can always, of course, reduce the size of your design by 20%, or you could take it into embroidery software and reduce a design that you really want on your napkin, but maybe it's just a little too large initially. And the design that we're going to choose is number 6, which is that little red work flower pot. All right, so the hoop is moving because it thinks that I'm going to do just that one embroidery design, but we're not. What we're now going to do is we're going to touch the little house icon, the home icon at the bottom, and we're going to go to the edit screen. Now what it's come up with is the free arm hoop, but we know that we hooped up with stabilizer the SQ23 hoop, so we're then going to go there. If I was doing the SQ14 hoop, which I mentioned we could, you would choose that, but we're going to choose the SQ23 hoop in this case. And let me just check that you can see what's on the screen. What we're now going to do is we're going to rotate this design by 45 degrees. Most of our embroidery machines have got the icons for editing. That's rotating, resizing, all sorts of lovely good stuff. They may be down the side of the screen, they may be at the bottom, but they'll be on your screen, and your instruction manual will give you further information about the editing. So you've got two options now. You can use your stylus pen to move the design up a little bit, or you can use these little jog keys, these little arrows over here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to move the design 2 blocks up, and it needs to go down one more. All right, so I find I have more control when I use these little jog arrows here as opposed to using my stylus or my finger on the screen. So if you look at that design now, the little flower pot is 2 blocks up, 2 of those little small blocks up, and 2 across in that top right quadrant. And that is exactly where I want my flower pot to be. Each block on the screen right now, this block and this block, this block, this block, those are going to each be one of my napkins. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to scroll down, and I just want to check you can see that. Yes, you can. See this icon over here? Your machine may or may not have the cornering icon. If it does not, that's not a problem, because then all you do is you copy this and paste it and range 4 of them in your hoop. But we've got this handy dandy icon here where if we just touch it, it immediately duplicates all of those flower pots. So we now have 4 flower pots mirrored and perfectly in position in relation to the where I set the first one. All right, so now we are actually ready to go. Voila, we have our 4 flower pots in place. Now I'm going to teach you something now which I think is really, really fabulous. And that is, the first thing we need to do is say okay, because we need to go back to our ready to sew screen. So on our ready to sew screen, the first thing I want to do is I want to touch the little crosshair over there, because that shows me the progress of my embroidery while I am doing it. And you'll notice it gives me other information here, the size of the design, the speed of the machine. It's only going to take 6 minutes to stitch this design, which is pretty quick. So the first thing I want to do is show you how to baste or trace and baste. That's this function. I could not live without this feature. Totally love it. Now, some of you may have used the basting function and thought, why is it not picking up my bobbin thread? And I'm just going to talk a little bit with the camera towards me now, just to mention to you, that can be a little frustrating, but there's a real good reason why that happens. There's nothing wrong with the machine. Why it's happening is because you are, the basting stitch is a very long stitch, and the tension on it is very loose, because you are going to pull that basting stitch out afterwards. Now, if it was very tight, like a regular sewing stitch, you'd be cursing trying to take that basting out. So you don't have that. And because of the low tension and the fact that you're going through fabric and stabilizer, sometimes it doesn't quite pick up the bobbin thread, so it goes along with its basting and it's kind of dragging the top thread. So let me show you a little tip that I have used many times over the years, and let's move this back a little so that you can see, and let's zoom in a bit so that you can see better of what's going on at the machine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to choose, whoops, sorry, I hadn't finished there. Let's go back to the screen. I want to choose this icon here, which is the basting icon. It does one row of basting, one square of basting. And I'm now going to flip it back to the machine, push the camera back this way, and I am going to press my stop start button not once but twice. And the reason for that is that as soon as it gets up to the top right corner to start the basting, I want it to stop and not carry straight on with the basting. And now what I do is I drop my needle, to use needle up down once and twice, and now I pull my bobbin thread up. And now with my bobbin thread and my top thread in my little hot hand, I now let it go with the stitching, and look at that. It's picked my bobbin thread up just beautifully, and it is basting my tan fabric to the hoop, the stabilizer that was hooped up, and everything is honky-dory for our embroidery. Nothing is going to slip, and we are going to get a really good result. All right, so there is my basting. Let me move the camera so that you can see the basting as it is. That is a brilliant, brilliant function. And I am going to zoom in just a little more, and I'm going to switch the basting feature off. So we're now back to the ready to sew screen, and I'm simply going to press the stop start button, and it is going to do its stitching. Now remember, I said to you it was only 6 minutes, so it's not going to take a very long time to stitch out. So while it's stitching out, I am going to scroll through the comments to see if there are any questions. Sandra asked the question, I thought you needed to use the yellow dot bobbin case for non-Janome threads. Well, it's more to do with, are you using a bobbin that you wound or some other brand wound? We know what the tension is on our pre-wound bobbins, so that is why we can say it's not 100% essential to use the yellow dot bobbin case on our pre-wounds. But if you wound your own bobbin, or you use another brand of pre-wound or whatever, that is when we really do recommend you use the yellow dot bobbin case. I hope that it solves that, answers that question. Wow, we have somebody from Denmark. Hi to you in Denmark. And Katie answered, the yellow bobbin is for embroidery regardless of the thread brand. Yeah, because it's actually a lot easier just to say that, which is why I use it for virtually everything except AccuFill quilting or quilting in the hoop. My accent, Heidi, is a South African English speaking accent. Like in Canada, we've got the English and the French. In South Africa, and apart from all the black people and all their accents and their various languages, in the white population, we had English and Afrikaans speaking people. I actually speak Afrikaans fluently, but I was an English speaker, and the accent you're hearing is an English speaking South African accent. It's just different, ladies. Let's see. I thought the embroidery needles are ballpoint needles. The red tip, correct me if I'm wrong, Regina, but I don't think the red tip is a ballpoint. I think the blue tip has a slight ballpoint, but the red tip is just perfect for embroidery. It's what I use all the time. Do I use a blue dot bobbin case for ruler work? Absolutely, because ruler work is free motion, And the blue dot bobbin case is used whenever I'm doing AccuFill quilting in the hoop, free motion quilting, the hand look quilting stitch, and ruler work, which is free motion. Single or double pieces of stabilizer, that would depend on what stabilizer you're using. My stabilizer, I tested it on this little piece beforehand, and so I knew that one piece of the water soluble stabilizer I used was more than enough to support that red work design. But if you had a more dense embroidery design, you may well find that you have to use a slightly thicker stabilizer or 2 layers. If you're getting eyelashing, Sam said use the blue dot bobbin case. Totally good suggestion. I didn't know about the different bobbins. I have the original. Yes, you can purchase a yellow dot bobbin case. The magnets, yep, we're using the magnets on this particular hooping. And Sam said the blue tips are ballpoint and the red tips are sharp. Thank you for confirming that, Sam. I was pretty sure that was the case. All right. Glad you liked the tip about the basting. Thank you, Kimberly, for your comments. And let's just see. Yeah, Joyce, I'm so glad you like my tip about the basting. I can't tell you how many times I got real frustrated and said nasty things. I call them sewing words. And then till I discovered that tip of pulling up the bobbin thread before you start the basting, and it was just a real change point for me. The difference between red and purple tip needles. The purple tip needles have a cobra head, which has got little protrusions above the eye of the needle, and they are specifically to stop skipped stitches. But I do use them for embroidery at times when I'm stitching out a very dense embroidery design, or one that's got a number of underlays and is turning out to be quite thick, because then I don't get problems with my embroidery stitch out. And the red tip, as Regina said, is also fabulous for metallic threads. All right, and there's a great link that's been put on there. Okay, I think we've gone through all the comments. If I missed one, please let us know, and somebody will answer you after this live. I know we are at 35 minutes already, so I'm kind of a little bit over my time. So let me speed up and just show you the end little bits of this while it's stitching out there. Is once the machine has finished stitching, you're going to remove it from the hoop, remove your basting, which is of course very easy to do, and then I had actually initially just folded this, let me just see that you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. I had folded my creases like I did with the tan fabric, but I drew them in with a water-soluble pen so that you could see clearly, because that is where you are now going to cut this big square into 4 separate squares. So there is how one hooping becomes 4 separate napkins. And here is, let me zoom out so that you can see it a little bit better. There is one of the napkins, and I have edged it with a serger rolled hem. You could do that. I found that the quickest and the easiest. And just in case you're wondering where the other napkins are, here are the other 3 napkins that I cut from my big square of quilting cotton. I have not edged them with the serger yet, but fully intend to do so. The other way that you can end off your napkins, if you so choose, and I'm just going to position these on my hand right now to show you. These feet are our narrow hem or rolled hem feet. This one, the D foot, D for dog, comes with a lot of our machines, and the D1 and the D2 feet, those two are optional accessories and are available for both 7mm and 9mm machines. So that is another method that you can use at your sewing machine. If you don't have a serger, you can end off the edges of your napkin with a narrow hem. I did want to show you something as well. I watched Danelle's class last Saturday. I followed along her class on ruler quilting, and I had a great time, a lovely way to spend my Saturday afternoon. And I made this little ruler quilting bag. I discovered I didn't have all the rulers that I should have had. They should have been in my little bag, but they weren't. So I just improvised, but I had a lot of fun. And if you have not yet attended any of the Janome America live classes, you may want to go onto their Facebook page and have a look at them. I know there's more coming up soon. Jen Tryon is doing one on reverse cover hem, and Alba's doing one that's kid friendly on making a pillowcase. I hope I'm not forgetting some people. And then on the 28th of May, I am doing an hour-long class on how to make fringe flowers. So this is another embroidery technique, and if you go onto the Facebook page, you will see the machines that have these designs built in. But if you have a machine that doesn't have that built-in design, don't worry, because Anne Hahn, my friend Anne Hahn, one of the Janome America educators, very kindly digitized 2 fringe flower designs for you, and they are there on the Janome America Facebook page under the classes for you to download so that you can follow along and make the little project with fringe flowers that I'm going to show on the 28th of May. So here we are, 39 minutes. I need to finish off now. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot, and please keep watching, please keep supporting your dealers, and keep sewing. I don't know about you, but sewing is kind of keeping me sane right now. So there you are. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.